Hello everyone, welcome back. We are continuing with taxation. We have completed fiscal policy. We have almost completed taxation. We saw direct taxes. We saw indirect taxes also. We'll continue. There is a little bit or 5 to 10% is remaining of taxation, and then we'll move on to one of the most important chapters, one of UPSC's favorite chapters, one of the chapters wherein you will definitely find 2 to 3 questions in MCQs every year compulsorily. That chapter is called as monetary policy, right? So we'll go on to monetary policy, but before that we have to do some things, and that we'll do, and then we'll go to monetary policy, right? Very quickly, let us revise everything that we know about indirect taxation. What do we know about indirect taxation? What do we know about indirect taxation? Can incidence be shifted in indirect taxation? No. Can burden be shifted in indirect taxation? Yes. Burden can be shifted. What are the types of indirect taxation? Types are what? GST, you can say excise, you can say service tax, but service tax is not in existence anymore. Little bit of VAT is there. Remember, we spoke about 4 things which are not under GST. What are those 4 things? First thing was petroleum products, second thing was electricity, third thing was real estate. But real estate under construction is there, but after construction it is not there under GST. And what was the 4th point? Alcohol for human consumption, right? Why these products are not in GST? Why these products where GST is not applicable? Because state does not want, or states do not want to give their taxing powers up to the central government. They do not want to share their powers with the central government. Yes or no? Then in GST we saw the genesis of GST. What are the rates in GST? What do you think? How many rates? It has 5 rates: 0, 5, 12, 18, 28%. Right? 0% goods are exempt under GST. No, they are taxed under GST, but they are taxed at 0%. Always remember this. 4 goods we saw that they are exempt under GST. Yes or no? Is GST applicable on exports? No, GST is not applicable on exports. Exports are also known as nil rated supply or zero rated supply, right? GST is not applicable on exports because we want to encourage exports. So whatever sale of goods or provision of services is happening within India, we are taxing that, right? Which tax is applicable on imports? Customs is applicable on imports. Yes or no? We saw in the end of the lecture, we saw something that needs to be corrected. We saw something that is an anomaly in our tax regime. What happens when that happens, or that is called as inverted duty structure? Yes or no? IDS. What do we know? What do we know about inverted duty structure? What is it? Think and tell me. Try to think. If you don't recollect, then please try and stress hard on your brain and try to recollect what do we know by inverted duty structure. So when we try to import raw materials for making something in India, then what happens is that the tax or the import duty on that raw material is sometimes more than the import duty on the finished product, ready-made finished product. So what happens is that our made in India product becomes costlier compared to the finished product which is imported from some other country, example China, right? So our made in India products is not bought by anyone because they are ready-made, full products are available at a cheaper cost. So this is known as inverted duty structure, where duty on imported components or duty on imported inputs is more than the duty on the final product itself. And by duty I don't mean any GST or anything, I mean import duty. Okay, it is also import duty is also, customs duty is also known as import duty. Okay, import duty is custom duty only. So if you are confused what is import duty and what is custom duty, custom is a broad term. One of the component is import duty, right? There are other duties also which we will see in the we will see in the WTO chapter, World Trade Organization chapter, because they are more relevant there. Okay, so now coming back, we saw what is inverted duty structure, that raw materials or the tax or the import duty or the custom duty on raw materials being more or being higher than the custom duty or custom duty or import duty on finished product itself. That is known as, or this anomaly is called as inverted duty structure. What else did we see? We saw something called as GST network. Do you remember GST network? That is the system where everyone logs in and every data is collected by the government and then processing happens. GST network. Earlier it was privately owned. I mean, not 100% privately owned. 51% was with private organizations. 49% was with government. Now it is a 100% government organization. After 2 years of implementation, they converted it to 100% government organization. Right? Then what were the changes made by GST Act or GST regime? First of all, constitutional change was being made. 101st Constitutional Amendment Act 2016, right? There are 5 acts which this Constitutional Amendment Act brought in. Which are those 5 acts? Central GST Act, State GST Act, UT GST Act, Integrated GST Act, and GST Compensation to States Act. Yes or no? What do you mean by integrated GST? What do you think? When is integrated GST applicable? Integrated GST is applicable on interstate supply of services or interstate sale of goods. So there government comes to stop fighting between those two states, and then government collects and then shares half and keeps half. Yes or no? CGST plus SGST is IGST. True or false? Yes, it is absolutely true. CGST plus SGST is IGST. Now, very important. What about GST compensation cess to states? What about that? What is it exactly? Why we have to compensate to states? At what rate? And what is that rate called? And how is that collected? And how are states compensated? Was there an issue earlier this year regarding compensation to states? And how much was the amount involved? We have seen all of this. So we'll revise quickly one by one. First of all, what is GST compensation cess to states? So manufacturing states were unwilling to give up their taxing power. So central government said, whatever would be the loss in your revenue, we will compensate it for 5 years, and then at the end of 5 years, it is expected that our revenue collection would be so much that we will be able to sustain ourselves, right? So 14% rate was chosen. Now that 14% is what? That 14% is what? What is it called as? What is that 14% called as? Think and tell me. If you are unable to recollect, please try harder. We have a name, we have a specific term for that 14%. What is that 14% called as? Specifically 14% rate was chosen, and it has a specific name also, and that name has to be known. It is compulsorily, it is very essential to be known. It is called as revenue neutral rate, RNR. It is called as revenue neutral rate, RNR, right? So revenue neutral rate, so that states do not gain more than the previous regime and do not lose compared to the previous regime. It is revenue neutral rate, RNR. So center agreed that we will compensate to states any shortfall in revenue at the rate of 14%. We will assume that your revenue will grow at 14% and 14% will will compensate, right? And this is how GST was brought into picture. Then from where this 14% compensation will come from? From where will center get money? What do you think? From where? What is the source of money? They will apply a cess. Remember yesterday we saw a difference between cess and surcharge. What is the difference between cess and surcharge? Surcharge is nothing but an extension of tax for super rich people, right? Or or it can be used for any purposes. But what about cess? Cess can be used only for specific purposes. It goes into the public account of India. Similarly, GST compensation cess was applied on which goods? On which goods? Luxury goods. Luxury goods are normally taxed at 28%. They might not be sin goods, but sin goods are also taxed at 28%. But any goods which fall under 28% category, they are taxed. For example, SUVs, sports utility vehicles, they are taxed under 28%. Luxury cars, Mercedes and all there, who cost about 30, 40, 50 lakhs, they are taxed under 28%. So, uske upar more than that, they are collecting cess. Why? To compensate states. Okay, this was all about GST. Was there any controversy? Yes, there was a controversy because center had long pending dues which were to be given to the states, and out of 2.97 lakh crores, 93 or some odd less than 1 lakh crores, center said that it is my fault that I have to give you, but rest it is act of God. Yes or no? Then center gave two options. One is you borrow the shortfall which is pending from my side, I will pay the interest on your side. But otherwise, if you want to borrow the full amount, full 2.97 lakh crores, if you want to borrow, then I will not pay the interest. So most of the states, obviously, almost all the states went for option number one. We will borrow small amount, but let center pay the interest, right? Now, where will this interest come from, and where will other 14%? Till 22, we have to give the compensation, right? Center has to give compensation to the state. So where will this come from? This will come from, they are deliberating to extend the validity of cess collection by 5 more years. Okay? So 5 years, they are deliberating it. Who is deliberating it? GST Council. Which article? Which article? Articles are very important. See, these articles are important in economics also because GST brought about constitutional changes. So we need to know articles relating to which pertain to our domain entirely. Other than that, even if you don't remember the articles relating to fundamental rights and etc., in economy it is fine. In economy you don't need all of that. Polity you need to remember almost all articles, major articles. Okay, so Article 279A. We saw Article 279A, and now this is your homework. You have to find out which article gives states and center joint power to collect GST. Remember, I told you either it falls under center's domain or state's domain or both domain. So GST falls under both domain. Okay? But which article was inserted after 101 Constitutional Amendment Act? Which article was inserted after 101 Constitutional Amendment Act to give both center and states power to jointly levy GST. So state got the power to levy state GST, center got the power to levy center GST, center got the power to levy IGST. Yes or no? Because center collects IGST. Which article is having these provisions? I want you to tell me. I want you to message me on Telegram whenever you see this lecture. I want you to tell me which article was inserted by 101st Constitutional Amendment Act, which is the basis of source of power of tax collection to center and states taken together. Because Article 279 is nothing but GST Council. It said कि council होगा, centers people will come, states people will come, they will deliberate the policies further. Because it is a joint venture, because it is a joint operation between center and states, neither center can unilaterally take any power or decision, neither states have the power to take unilateral decisions, right? So GST Council is fine, but which is the article which actually gives powers to center to collect IGST and CGST and states to collect SGST? That you have to tell me. And UTs to collect UT GST. We almost always forget UTs, right? Okay. Which is the biggest union territory in India? What do you think? Which is the biggest union territory in India? Remember, there are 2 new union territories added, Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh. Do not forget, do not make the mistake of considering them as states. The current situation you have to know. Tomorrow if they become states, then obviously you have to consider them as states. Please be updated with this, because normally what happens is that once we learn something, it gets so imprinted in our brains. India has 28 states. We know till now what we had learned in 11th, 12th, or in NCERT, what was printed when NCERTs were released. But things have evolved, things have changed. So be ready to embrace the change. In UPSC preparation, whatever we are learning now, see GST Council, we have learned so many things. Tomorrow anything can change. Tomorrow composition can change. Tomorrow center will bring in more people. Tomorrow one new article will be inserted which will give powers to some other body. You have to keep on updating yourself. That is the whole point of UPSC ki, whether you settle down with your knowledge or whether you continuously keep on updating it. That is the whole point. Yes or no? Okay. और क्या देखा? What else did we see yesterday in indirect taxes? Anything else? Then we saw the main purpose of GST. Why it was introduced. We saw 2 numerical examples. So first bane which our earlier taxation regime was suffering was double tax or tax on tax, cascading effect of taxes. Yes or no? You had tax on tax. Second major effect was that center was not giving input tax credit to state taxes. State was not giving input tax credit to center's taxes. Centers was not giving excise credit to service tax, and center was not giving service tax credit to excise. State government was not giving its credit to another state government taxes. Yes or no? So they were not speaking to each other. Even center's excise division was not communicating with center service tax division. So now what we have achieved is, we have achieved one nation, one market. Everyone speaks to one another. Everyone gives credit to one another's transactions and one another's tax which was already paid. And we have ensured that the ultimate cost to the consumer reduces. Yes or no? We saw 1,41,000, 1,40,000. The ultimate cost to the consumer reduces. See, even if you don't understand the numerical example, I hope you got the point or the principle of it, right? GST is a value-added tax. Yes or no? GST is a VAT. Yes or no? GST is a value-added tax. We saw that it is taxing only the value-added. Okay, it is not taxing anything else, but it is taxing only the value-added. Okay. What else did we see in GST? What else can you think of? Whatever I can think of, I told you. Anything else that you can remember? This is revision. Without looking to remember something is called as revision. क्या लगता है? What else do you think? What is excise? What is excise? Excise is tax on production. So irrespective of whatever you sell or not sell, even if you have produced 100 units of 100 mobiles, let's say, but you have kept it in your godown itself, the moment they leave the godown, excise inspector will come and excise will be collected. Yes or no? Who collects excise? Both center and states. There are center excise on some things, there are state excise on some things. Remember, alcohol for human consumption falls under state excise because state manufactures almost all the alcohol in India. We import some of them When we import some of them, what will be levied? Customs will be levied. When we make in India, excise will be levied. Yes or no? When we sell in India, GST would be levied. But in case of alcohol, GST would not be levied. What would be levied? VAT would be levied. Okay? Maharashtra has, like, one of the biggest sources of revenue of Maharashtra is alcohol production. And Maharashtra also sends alcohol to various other states. There are big breweries in Maharashtra. In other states also there is a lot of production. In Karnataka also there is a lot of production. But Maharashtra has a lot of industries, and alcohol industry is definitely one of the major ones. Okay? Then what did we see? What is input tax credit? What is input tax credit? ITC. What is ITC? Input tax credit. What do you think? Input tax credit. So tax which you have paid when purchase of your inputs. Tax which you have already paid, which the supplier of inputs have taken from you, that you get the credit of that when you are about to pay tax on your outputs. Input tax credit. Okay? Simple. We saw the examples, so I am not going to repeat those examples. What is tax buoyancy? The change in rate of tax, or the increase or decrease in rate of tax compared to the change in the rate of increase or decrease in GDP. That is known as tax buoyancy. Yes or no? Okay? Then is tax buoyancy applicable in indirect tax also? Yes, it is a very generic concept. It is tax buoyancy. It does not differentiate between direct and indirect. You can calculate direct tax buoyancy separately, indirect taxes buoyancy separately. That you can do that. But the thing is, when we talk about tax, we talk about tax to GDP ratio, and then tax to GDP ratio contains both tax and GDP. How much is India's tax to GDP ratio combined? 15-16%. How much is center's tax to GDP ratio? 10%. And what is the component of direct tax and indirect taxes? Around 5-6%. Okay? Very simple. Now I am going to tell you. Tell you something very important. So see this example. 100 rupees ka mobile I am selling. I am selling a mobile of 100 rupees. Okay? Very important. GST is 18%. Okay? What will you do? You will add GST 18%, 108 you will bill to the customer. Yes or no? Will you bill 118 to the customer? Yes or no? Yes, you will bill. Tomorrow, it's very simple to understand, it's not complicated. Tomorrow, government reduces GST to 12%. What will you do? Yes or no? In case 1, does the customer know that he has to pay 118? Yes, he has to pay 118. So tomorrow when you go to buy a mobile and you see that price has reduced to 112, you will be very happy. Yes or no? Why? Because you are paying less amount of tax. Okay? Now what if after reduction of GST, this guy does not reduce the GST charged on the bill? What does it do? See, what is the difference in GST? What is the difference? 6 rupees is the difference. 6 rupees ka discount customer shopkeeper has to pass on to the customer. What if he does this? 6 rupees ka difference hai na? What if he increases this? What if he does this? The difference in GST he has added to his own profit margin, his own cost, and he is selling it to the customer at the same price. So tomorrow when you go to the shop, you don't see any difference, because you see 118. Now some of you will say, sir, but rate of GST would be reduced. You can see on the bill. What if he does not say that also? What if he says ki GST is 18%? What if he gives the bill for this rate? And out of this 18, 6 he keeps it and 12 he gives to the government, because government knows it is 12%, shopkeeper knows it is 12%, you don't know it is 12%. Will you Google the GST rate of current mobile what you are buying? You will not. You do not Google it. Yes or no? Is this a problem? Government had reduced GST. Why? Because to encourage the sale and consumption of these goods, whatever it is, be it mobile, be it cold drinks, be it juices, anything. Government has reduced the GST to encourage the sale of these goods, but this guy saw an opportunity. He said that the remaining GST I can pocket it myself without sending to the government. So he will give an old bill only. He will say GST 18%, 118. Customer, as a customer, you will pay 18%, but 6% will go to the shopkeeper and 12% will only go to the government. Why? Because government has now changed the GST to 12%. Yes or no? Is this a problem or not? Okay? Are you understanding what I am saying? The reduction in GST is not passed on to the consumer. The reduction in GST is not passed to the customer. Okay? For example, if doctor had earlier said that you will need 10 medicines and then he tells the nurse to tell the patient he doesn't need 10 medicines, he needs only 7 medicines. But still the nurse says customer ko ki you have to buy 10 medicines and she keeps the 3 and she gives the customer 7. So, aisa nahi chalega. Do you agree with this? Are you understanding what is happening here? First case 100 plus 18 118 very clear. Second customer goes, but by then government has reduced GST. Still shopkeeper gives the earlier bill only, and he is supposed to collect 12 rupees, but he is collecting 18 rupees, and out of that 6 rupees he is keeping for himself and 12 rupees he is giving to the government. What will government think? 100, I have gotten 12 rupees, he is doing very fine. Okay? What will shopkeeper feel? I have gotten 6 rupees extra, I can charge 118 from the customers. What will customer feel? I have given 118, that was the rate which was charged earlier also. Okay? So government's intention of making these goods, government intentions of making these goods available at a cheaper price are not realized, are not fulfilled. Yes or no? Because beech mein they are only eating away the money. This is a very wrong practice. This is very unethical, illegal practice. Yes or no? So there is an authority. There is an authority. So can I say that he is making excess profits of 6 rupees, which is not his? See, he can increase this price anytime, but charge only 12% as GST. That is what government is saying. You can increase your price anytime, but don't take money from the customer in the name of GST. Tomorrow if he increases this to 200 and charges 12% GST at 24 and takes 224, that is okay, that is fine. This is shopkeeper's or seller's prerogative. This is his problem. Government is saying ki don't collect 18 as GST when it is actually 12 rupees. Don't collect 18 in the name of GST. Don't collect excess money and make excess side profits. This is side profits. Yes or no? He is doing nothing. He is just pocketing side ka GST. So he collected GST 18 from you, 12 he gave to the government, 6 he kept it. This is excess profiteering. Yes or no? That is why in India's GST regime we have a separate authority. GST Act has established a separate authority, and it did not come into existence when Amendment Act was made. It came into existence some 1.5 to 2 years ago. Okay, it is a new authority. It is called as, see the name, see the English. Do you understand the name? National Anti-Profiteering Authority, sometimes called as NAPA or NAA. Because this is hyphen, na? So this is only one word, anti-profiteering. So only one A is there. Or you can call it NAPA also. Somewhere NAPA is mentioned, somewhere NAA is mentioned. Some newspapers, some books, some resources, they mentioned NAPA. Some of them mention NAA. Okay? What is, now you tell me, what is the mandate of this authority? You only tell me, what is the mandate of this authority? What do you think is the mandate of this authority? To provide or to catch transactions like this. Okay? So if the mandate is that, just listen, the mandate is that if they find out that some of the sellers are involved in GST fraud like this, that they are charging 18% from customers but giving 12% to the government. They are giving right amount to the government, that is not wrong, but they are charging more from the customers in the name of GST. You increase your cost and you increase your profit, that is your operations. Okay, but in the name of GST, don't collect extra. So if they find out that any shopkeeper or any seller or anyone in the chain is engaged in anti-profiteering, is engaged in such side profiting or something like that, then they have the power to cancel the license of the business. They have the power to cancel the license of the business to operate, and that is why a lot of protests were made when this authority was brought into existence. Lot of protests were made because they can misuse this power. You know, they will ask money from him and say ki I will show you that you are engaged in profiteering. He is saying, sir, I am doing genuine transaction, but these government authorities will say ki give us money, you know, corruption and all, give us bribe, otherwise we will give a fake report ki you are engaged in profiteering and we will cancel your registration. So this also raises, see, when always realize this, you will study in governance in GS2 and ethics in GS4, that whenever power is given to any authority, the scope of misuse increases, and that is why to prevent the scope of misuse, accountability and responsibility also has to be increased in commensurate manner compared to power. Okay? Are you understanding? So if you become an IAS officer, when you become an IAS officer, you have ultimate power. But if you are not given equal responsibility and accountability, then what will happen? Everyone is prone to vitamin M, money. Yes or no? Vitamin M and vitamin P, power. When people become hungry for money and power, they don't even realize. So it is always said that power corrupts a person, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Right? So same goes for national anti. Can we link? Have we learned a similar concept in direct taxes, where some powers were given to some tax authorities to avoid dash under dash rules? Similar powers were given to some direct tax authorities to crack down on some dash type of transactions under dash rules. Can you recollect it? If you are able to recollect, then very good, you are on the right track to revise all these things. And trust me, when we see MCQs, this is what is asked in the exam. So you will be very happy you will be pleasantly happy when we solve UPSC MCQs. Okay? See, I've told you in the very first lecture that whatever UPSC has given you, you have to consume it in entirety. Question paper ho, syllabus ho, you have to know each and every word of it. Right? So we will be solving UPSC past year questions only. But you will realize that sometimes they are tough, sometimes they are easy, but economics questions are more or less manageable. That is my assurance. Okay? So any related concept have we seen in direct taxes? Have we seen such a superpower which was being given to direct tax officers? They were given to avoid, or they were given to disallow transactions which were made with the sole intention of avoiding to pay taxes. Yes or no? And the rules were called as General Anti-Avoidance Rules, GAR. Yes or no? General Anti-Avoidance Rules. Similar power given to Indirect Tax Authority, to this authority specifically, National Anti-Profiteering Authority, or NAP or NAA, to cancel the license of cancel the business license who are engaged in fraudulent GST practices. Okay? They also have some other mandate also, underpayment of GST, overcharging, etc., etc. But that is all details, right? You can read about NAPA if you want, but this is more than enough. So you know how UPSC will ask the question: the National Anti-Profiteering Authority is seen in which context? A. Direct taxes. B. Indirect taxes. C. You can say WTO affairs, or D. Something else, World Bank affairs, or none of the above. So answer is indirect taxes. It is related to GST. It is exclusively related to GST. Don't think that it is related to any other indirect tax. It is exclusively related to GST. And obviously, if you are giving more power, then safeguards were also brought in. Officers were made accountable. Officers were made to prove beyond doubt that businessman is indeed engaged in fraudulent GST practices. So can I use the language here? This is what you will be writing in mains. Can I say that GST rate cut transmission is not happening in this case? Can I say GST rate cut transmission is not happening, or there is weak transmission of GST rate cuts? See, transmission means what? Sending from one person to another. That is transmission. You transfer. So what is happening? Government is sitting in its office. It is reducing GST rate, but it is not getting transmitted to the ultimate consumer. Why? Because the middleman, the seller, he is taking away all the benefit which was supposed to be passed on to the customer, right? You give some message to someone and you tell, please tell him also. And if he doesn't tell, okay, so your message is not transmitted to the person. Similarly, the message by the government of GST rate cut is not transmitted to the ultimate consumer. Yes or no? And this transmission I am going to use in monetary policy also. So this similar phenomena happens in monetary policy also. Okay, RBI cuts interest rate, but it is not ultimately passed on to the customer. Okay. This is National Anti-Profiteering Authority. We'll see a news article which I came across 2-3 days ago. So I thought I'll just show you. See this. See the headline. Do you understand the headline? Ensure GST cuts reach users. Ensure GST cuts by the government reaches users. Users means the ultimate consumers. Complaints. Plaints means complaints. Fancy word. Complaints on COVID essentials prices must be prioritized. National Anti-Profiteering Authority, NAA. Have we read about NAA? Yes. The National Anti-Profiteering Authority has directed GST officials across the country to ensure that tax rate cuts notified on some COVID-19 related essentials are passed on to the consumers. Do you understand? National Anti-Profiteering Authority has directed GST officials to ensure that GST rate cuts on COVID essential items. So earlier they were taxed at 18%, today they are taxed at 5% because they are essential for COVID, right? Complaints from end users means consumers like us, about lack of price reductions commensurate with tax cuts. Lack of price reductions commensurate with tax cuts. Tax is getting cut from 18 to 5%, but prices are not reducing. How is this possible, right? Are to be treated on a priority basis and forwarded to the state level screening committee of the Anti-Profiteering Authority. Secretary said. At its last meeting on June 12, the GST Council, do we know GST Council, had waived means given up, had waived the indirect tax levied on two critical drugs, tocilizumab and amphotericin B. Okay? These are treated for infections, and reset the tax rate to 5% on 14 COVID-19 essentials, which means on some medicines tax rate was brought to 0%, waived, 0% mein leke aaye, and for some essentials it was brought to 5%. But if the price is not reducing for the ultimate consumer, what is the use? Which means the one who is selling those goods is pocketing the extra GST. Yes or no? He is charging GST from the consumer but pocketing it. On June 14, the Finance Ministry had notified the revised rates which are applicable till September 30. Right? The suppliers are required to commensurately means proportionately. The suppliers are required, I know you can't see this because I cannot zoom this. So when you see online, maybe you are able to zoom this. But I am reading. The suppliers are required to commensurately reduce the prices of each of the supplies of goods and services made by them, so that the benefit of the reduction in tax rates and or of input tax credits is passed on to the recipients, consumers, the NA emphasized. Is this paragraph not exactly like what we have discussed? We have discussed the same thing. See, I have not read this article entirely. I just saw the headlines and I took a snapshot of it so that we can read it together in the class. Okay? Are you understanding so far? Everything is clear that we have discussed, right? Tax experts said that producer of item ranging from ambulances to pulse oximeters and oxygen concentrators would need to ensure retail price reductions were effected soon and paperwork filed to justify the extent of reductions in order to avoid action under the anti-profiteering framework. Simple, if they don't reduce the price, you will face action under anti-profiteering framework or rules. Businesses dealing with medical supplies that have undergone a GST rate reduction need to ensure that they have adequate documentation to demonstrate that rate cuts have been passed on to the consumer. They have to submit bills to prove that, see, earlier it was 18, today it is 5, I am giving different bills. Okay? Suppliers of firms who had not got the benefit of input tax credits on account of cuts in GST rate would also file complaints with the anti-profiteering apparatus, which is fine. Are you understanding this? Now see, I told you when you read newspapers, you have to ask, कहना क्या चाहते हो? So ultimately this entire article speaks about only one thing, that on medical supplies tax rates have been cut, but they are not transmitted to the consumers, and if they are not transmitted, then action can be taken by National Anti-Profiteering Authority. Simple. This is the whole crux of the article. Yes or no? They have written the same thing in different words here. If you notice, every paragraph has the same thing, but in some different words and one or two additional details. This is not how you write in exam. You don't have to write like this in exam. You know, this entire article becomes 1 point of 2 lines in your answer. Okay, GST rate. How would you summarize this article? How would you write this in 2 lines? I told you, I gave you a word. GST rate cut transmission on medical and essential supplies is not happening or not reaching end consumers. GST rate cut transmission, that is more important. That word transmission is very important, right? GST rate cut transmission is not happening. Similarly, GST rate increase transmission should also happen, but that will happen the day rates are increased, because no shopkeeper, no dealer, no seller is willing to pay GST from his own pocket. So today if it is at 5%, tomorrow if it again increases to 18%. They are always ready to charge more, yes or no? The problem is when rates are cut. That is when National Anti-Profiteering Authority comes into picture. Okay? Did you get this? Coming back. This was all about National Anti-Profiteering Authority. We have a few more concepts to go. They are very, I would say very basic concepts and not so important. So yeah, there is one concept which you should know. So see, what happened is, I'll tell you what earlier used to happen. Very important part of it. What happens is, let's say from Maharashtra, you are going to Kerala. Who are you? You are a truck. In your truck, there are a lot of goods which are produced in Maharashtra, which are sent to Kerala. Okay? Very good. It's a long distance, yes or no? You will have to traverse across various highways. Across various highways, don't you think you will have to encounter checkpoints? There are checkpoints, right? Border checkpoints, who check whether illegal goods are submitted, who check whether state taxes have been paid or not, interstate taxes, octroi and all. Have you heard of octroi? Okay? So there are a lot of checkpoints. So one truck, okay? One truck which was going here, it used to spend, do you know how much an average truck used to spend time at a check post? 2 days. 2 days, वो side में park करके, then it is weighed also whether excess weight is being carried compared to your road norms, and also there are rules for vehicles that you cannot carry beyond XYZ load. You know, even in passenger vehicles, more than 3 people in a rickshaw are not allowed. All these are due to loads, all these are due to weights, because they reduce the speed, and when speed is reduced, pollution increases. It also increases the depreciation, it also increases the damage to the vehicles, this thing, and that is why all these weights are fixed. So for trucks also, weights are fixed depending on the capacity. So imagine here he is spending 2 days, here he is spending 1 day, here he is spending 4 days. Okay, and do you think border officials will, or highway officials will let the truck go as it is? They will demand some money, yes or no, for fast clearance. So you have to pay money here, you have to pay money here, and then finally you reach Kerala. Now this was the story of one truck. Imagine how many crores of trucks travel every day in India across the destinations and across various borders, state borders, or even within the state. Within Maharashtra also there are so many checkpoints which trucks have to pass, yes or no? So can I say overall on an India level, a lot of money is being eaten up, a lot of time is being eaten up, a lot of money is being eaten up, yes or no? This also increases pollution, because when you stop, when you start, all these also affect your pollution levels, all these also affect your corruption levels, and majorly all these lead to inefficiency, yes or no? Today if you can take Maharashtra se Kerala, you can travel, let's say, in 7 days, and if it is taking you 12 days, 14 days, is it not double the time that you require? India is losing a lot of fuel here, India is losing a lot of money here, India is losing a lot of time here, yes or no? Because in that 14 days he could have made some another trip from Kerala to elsewhere in that extra 7 days. So to avoid this, what we have done is simple, very interesting concept. What we have done is, when he is starting out, he should log into the GST portal website. He will make a declaration कि I am transporting goods worth XYZ. These are the goods I am transporting, let's say fruits and vegetables. The weight is 140 kgs and I am going from Maharashtra to Kerala. This is my source, this is my destination. Then GST portal will give it a receipt to print. He will take the printout of the receipt, and that GST portal will relay this information to all the checkpoints across the border, across the route, all the checkpoints. So when he goes here, he has to stop here and he will get verified. Whether whatever you have uploaded and whatever it is there in the truck, it is same or not, because ultimately that has to be checked. You are carrying fruits or you are carrying guns, yes or no? So they will check it here. Once he gets verified here, this guy will upload in the GST portal कि I have verified this. Okay? Next time, this guy doesn't have to stop anywhere. He can directly go to Kerala. There can be surprise checks, there is no doubt about it. There can be surprise checks, but then this guy does not have to stop every time. He has to go to Kerala. Okay? In fact, sometimes even GST portal says you have to stop here, and don't stop anywhere else. So there will be one check before your destination and one check just after you leave your source. Okay? Does this save time? Yes. Does this save money? Yes. Does this provide transparency? Yes. So this printout which I told you, this document which these truck people carry, who has declaration. See, truck driver is an employee, is a wage employee. the truck company or the one who is sending goods, he has to do all this, take a print and give it to the truck driver. So, and that will have the name of the supplier, that will have the name of the person who is receiving in the destination, etc. Right? So this document, very important, this document is called as an e-way bill. It is called as an e-way bill. See, earlier it was way bill. Way bill is nothing but give me the way I want to go. Truck, just imagine truck person saying to tax inspectors ki give me the way I want to go. Now since it is all happening electronically, it is known as e-way bill. So once you have an e-way bill, you will be subjected to lesser checks, you will be subjected to lesser stoppages, lesser wastage of fuel, lesser wastage of efficiency. Okay? Sir, when does e-way bill become compulsory? E-way bill becomes compulsory if you are carrying goods worth more than 50,000 rupees in a single consignment. If you are carrying goods more than 50,000 rupees in a single consignment, then e-way bill becomes compulsory. There are also limits on kilometers. If you are going for only 1 kilometer, then you don't have to take e-way bill because yahi to jana hai. Okay, so all those are details which we don't need to know. We only need to know the concept of e-way bill. That e-way bill, more than 50,000 worth of goods if you are carrying, then it is a declaration given by the sender on the GST portal that I am sending these many goods and this is. Now, do you think GST portal, the ones who are sitting in GST network, they can analyze this also, ki who is sending what to where or how many goods are being transported, and hence highways can be planned accordingly. Okay, try to look at the bigger picture. Highways can be planned accordingly. Then let's say they come to know ki Maharashtra to Kerala is a very busy route. Lot of e-way bills are being filed from Maharashtra to send goods to Kerala. Then they will provide more restaurants here on the way. They will double the highway lane because there are more vehicles. They will better implement traffic management. Okay? They will allow big trucks to ply on these highways. So many plannings can happen. So this is the power of IT. This is the power of computerization. So now GST has also computerized a lot of things, and one of the example is e-way bill. So please keep e-way bill in mind. Please keep the concept of e-way bill in mind. Baki, again UPSC, if it asks a question in prelims, question will not be about e-way bill. Question will be ki e-way bill is seen in relation to what? So you can say GST. Sorry. We'll see the questions, then you'll get an idea. First, let us have some this thing, content, about tax and everything. Then we'll see the e-way bill. Now, I formally conclude the taxation chapter. I formally finish the taxation chapter. There is only one part left. Only one part left. You have to help me with this. We have decided indirect tax rates to be 0, 5, 12, 18, 28. We have decided direct tax rates to be slab system. Let's say 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, whatever is the slab rate. Yes or no? Okay, chalo. Now, you have to help me with this. Will higher tax rate lead to higher collection or lower tax rate lead to higher tax collection? Think and tell me. Will a higher tax rate lead to higher tax collection or a lower tax rate lead to lower tax collection? It is not that easy कि higher tax है तो higher collection होगा. Think and tell me. Just think and tell me. So if I raise the rates from 10% to 15%, will it lead to higher tax collection? 15 to 20%, will it lead to higher tax collection? 20 to 40%, will it lead to higher tax collection? 40 to 50%, 60%, will it lead to higher tax collection or lower tax collection? The total tax collection, will it lead to higher tax collection or lower total tax collection? What do you think? Think and tell me. I'm literally giving you 1.5 or 1.5 minutes. Think and tell me. How, I'm putting you in the seat of the policy maker. Ki why 10%, why 15%, why 20%, why not 30%? Think. Chalo, simplify the example. Think about direct tax. Think about direct tax. Don't think about indirect tax because indirect tax is regressive in nature. Take the example of direct tax. In direct taxes, do you think higher tax rate will lead to higher collection or lower tax rate would lead to higher collection? What will happen? Is it directly proportional or not directly proportional? The answer is that it is not so simple because you have to find a sweet spot. Too low rate would lead to lower tax collection. Too high rate would also lead to lower tax collection. Sir, why sir? Because if you set the rate too high, it discourages people from paying taxes, and then people go for tax evasion easily. People justify tax evasion, right? And plus, see, if you set the rate as 60-70%, you will set that rate for super rich people, yes or no? 60-70, and they already have the means for tax evasion, right? Plus, it is possible that the incomes might not be so high, so people will have very less to pay as taxes. So you might have to exempt a lot of people from paying taxes. So if you want to collect 60% from super rich, then you have to exempt people who are earning up to 10 lakh rupees, because anyways 10 lakh ka 60% if you collect, then tomorrow your government will be overthrown. Yes or no? Okay. Do you know that earlier we had tax rates as high as 60, 70, 80%? We had tax rate. Today it is 30%. The highest tax rate is 30%, but earlier we had tax rates as 60, 70, 80%. So now let me plot a graph here. Okay. If I plot rate here, tax rate here, so 0% से लेके 100% तक, whatever. And if I plot the tax collections here, which ultimately what I collect. So let us talk about direct tax only. So we are talking about direct tax. Okay. So if I plot this thing, so see, now it is 0%. How much would be the tax collection? 0%. When it goes to 5%, will it increase? Yes. When it goes to 10%, would it increase? Yes. When it goes to 15%, would it increase? Yes. After a point of time, what will happen? It will start decreasing, yes or no? Because people will start avoiding to pay taxes. You will have to exempt a lot many people if you want. If you set a very high tax rate. So let's say here it is 80%. So 80% pay, you will have very less tax collection, because very few people will be willing to pay tax at 80%. Others will not pay. Okay? So can I say it is a ulta U-shaped curve? Yes or no? Do you agree with this? So what is the ideal tax rate? What do you think is the ideal tax rate here? This is the ideal tax rate, because here the tax collections are the highest. Yes or no? So this is which rate? So you see that, sir, this is 30% tax rate. So hence you keep the tax rate as 30%. This is what is used by economists. Okay? This is the sweet spot tax rate, and keeps on changing depending on the income level of the people. Yes or no? So this curve, which shows that tax collection increases with an increasing tax rate, but only up to a certain point, and then it decreases with a further increase in tax rate, is called as Laffer curve. So there was an economist, Laffer. He suggested this, and his theory or his curve is even now it is used in practice for setting of tax rates, especially direct tax rates. Okay, this is known as Laffer curve. Very important, Laffer curve. Please note this down, Laffer curve. It is very important. LAFFER, Laffer curve, CURVE, Laffer curve. What does it show? It shows that tax collection increase with an increase in tax rate, but only up to a certain point of time. After that, they decrease with a further increase in tax rate. So if you increase the tax rate beyond a particular range or beyond a particular zone, then your total tax collections would decrease. So you as a government, you have to set tax rates at the right level, so that your collection is maximized. Why are we maximizing tax collections? Because we want to increase revenue receipts, because we want to reduce fiscal deficit, and so on. Okay? Ultimately, it all goes to C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Yes or no? That we have established. See, this information you should keep in mind, that it is good to know this information. You will find in newspaper also that average indirect tax collection, average GST tax collection, average GST, I am not writing it down, it is trivial, but average GST tax collection, how much do you think is monthly GST collection? कितना होगा monthly GST collection from every goods and services which are sold in the economy. What do you think would be the monthly tax collection? Do you think of any range or something like that? So you should have the monthly GST collection in mind, because question was also asked ki GST performance, how was GST's performance till date? So that is why you have to keep the GST monthly figure in mind. It is somewhere around 1.2 to 1.4 lakh crores per month. 1.2 to 1.4 lakh crores per month. So highest was recorded in April, which was 1.43 lakh crores. We have also collected less than 1 lakh crores per month. So we have also collected 90,000, 95,000 crores per month. But average range is 1.2 to 1.4 lakh crores per month. You should remember this because it is something very important for the economy also. It is a new tax regime. This regime has come into existence. Even 5 years have not elapsed. This is the 5th year which will happen now since GST regime has come into practice. So please, GST is very important. It is new. Okay. In prelims sometimes they ask committees also. They ask who is the head of the committee, and they ask some factual things also. So I would give you one name of committee which is not that important, but since we do a bit extra than what UPSC requires, I will give you. See, income tax I told you, income tax or direct taxes the main component is what? Income tax, if you remember. Income tax is governed by what? How is income tax governed? Income Tax Act 1961, Income Tax Rules 1962. Yes or no? Right? So they are, just imagine when they have come into existence, 1961. Are they still of those era only? No, they are amended. They keep on amending from time to time. Okay? But still, the law was made in 1960s era, and trust me, Indian income tax laws are one of the most complicated ones in the world. It is so complicated. It is so complicated. There are so many things in income tax laws. It is so complicated that it becomes a primary source of income for chartered accountants. Okay, that is why. Because once it becomes simple, then CAs will not have any calm in your income tax law. Okay? So, income tax laws are very complicated. So, similarly, there were indirect tax laws which are very complicated, service tax and all in the earlier regime. Then entire indirect tax regime was overhauled and GST was brought into place. Yes or no? Similarly, if some of you, if you are having a question, if there is a similar overhaul planned for direct taxes or not. If there is there are various direct taxes, like I told you, wealth tax to abhi nahi hai, but there are other types of direct taxes also. So is there a similar overhaul planned for direct taxes also as we did with indirect taxes? The answer is yes. It has been in discussion since 2007. 2007-8 से discussion में है to bring about a direct tax code. DTC बोलते हैं उसको. To bring about a direct tax code. It is called as DTC, Direct Taxes Code. Why it is called a Direct Taxes Code? Now I am going to take you to law class. Law है. What is the earlier regime? What is the earlier regime? Income Tax Act 1961. What is this? It is an act. It is an act, which means it is a single piece of legislation which governs these things. If I say income tax code, okay? What does code mean? Code means a group of legislations. So one code will have various components under it. One code will have various divisions under it. You can say one code will have different acts under it. But we use the word code so that we can merge 2-3 acts together and then there is one code. Are you understanding? Code is much broader than Income Tax Act. So we are going towards codification of our laws. Our laws in India, especially financial laws, are so fragmented. There are so many financial laws in India and so many duplicate laws in India also. So one law says XYZ thing about one thing and the other law says some other thing about the same thing. So it becomes very difficult. So we are going towards codification. Some of you might have heard about Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, IBC. Okay, so that is also code. We'll speak about it in banking chapter. That is relevant in banking chapter, right? So we are going towards a codification. Code is nothing but a collection of all the provisions of all the acts. So what happens is that, imagine you have notes of Lakshmikant. So you have handwritten notes of Lakshmikant. You downloaded some PDF notes from Lakshmikant, and you took some topper notes of Lakshmikant. So there are so many sources. What you do is you consolidate them. You keep one set of notes only. Similarly, there is code, which talks about one set of laws, not separate acts, 1 act, 2 act, 3 act, not separate acts, one set of laws which will have provisions for everything. It will have chapters or it will have divisions for other things. Okay? So that is why to overhaul the entire direct tax regime, we want to establish a direct taxes code, DTC. ठीक है, it is not Delhi Transport, it is Direct Taxes Code. ठीक है, DTC. What will it do? It will combine all the laws related to income tax and all the laws related to direct taxes into one code. ठीक है, and one name you have to remember here. So the committee submitted its report way back in 2008. It was instituted in 2008. It submitted its report also. That report has not yet been made public completely. Discussions are going on. See, why so late? I told you GST discussion started in 2003 and then 2016-17 mein constitution was amended, right? Why direct tax code is taking so much of time? Because it is direct tax. Any loophole which is kept in direct tax code will be immediately exploited by Indians. Yes or no? We are very adept at finding jugaad. Okay? That is why this is the primary source of revenue for the government. So that is why we are trading very carefully before overhauling the entire direct tax regime. So we will simplify the tax laws and we will keep in the direct tax code. That is the intention. Now the committee on direct tax code was headed by a person named Akhilesh Ranjan. I want you to write this name, Akhilesh Ranjan. In case in prelims, if at all a question comes, then you will be very grateful that you studied and read this Akhilesh Ranjan committee. Okay, Akhilesh Ranjan committee on direct tax code. Okay, Akhilesh Ranjan committee on direct taxes code. देखो, whatever I had to tell you, I told you everything about taxation which is relevant from UPSC's point of view. There are million other things which are there in our tax laws but are of no use for us while preparing for this exam. Okay? So I hope you feel confident in taxation chapter now. If you want, you can revise it once more. I hope you know the difference between direct and indirect taxation. I hope every concept, every bit is clear now about taxes. Why direct taxes, why indirect taxes, why raising indirect taxes is worse than raising direct taxes, how the rates are set, how the GST regime functions, what about GST Council, what about GST network, what about National Anti-Profiteering Authority, what about the rates of GST, what about the four categories of goods which are not there in GST, how does entire functioning happens, what is GST rate transmission. I hope you know what is GST rate transmission, rate cut by government not being passed to the consumers. Then I hope you know all about direct taxes also, which is what is advance pricing agreement, what is GAR, general anti-avoidance rules, then what is base erosion and profit shifting, what is global minimum corporate tax rate, what is advance pricing agreement, then what is this thing, mutual legal assistance treaty, tax information exchange agreement, what is hot money, what is round tripping, what is financial transaction tax, what is then Tobin tax, what is Pigovian tax. Okay, what is Laffer curve? We saw what is Laffer curve. We saw one committee also, Akhilesh Ranjan committee, which you should know. Okay, I have told you so many things, and this is, I feel, more than enough. Iske upar, whatever comes above this will come from your current affairs. So if tomorrow something new happens, some new changes happen, that you have to cover from current affairs. If they come in, see how to know whether a current affairs or whether something is relevant for mains or not. If it comes only once in newspaper, it is not relevant for mains. It might be relevant for prelims. But if it comes repeatedly, at least 3-4 times in the newspaper, the issue comes repeatedly 3-4 times in editorials, in big articles, then it becomes worth looking. You know, you can look into it for your mains preparation. ठीक है? समझा? Right? Shall we move on to the next chapter, the next very important chapter? Yes or no? We are moving ahead. We are moving to the next very important chapter. We will come back to fiscal policy after this chapter. I have postponed it. We'll move on to something very different. We'll move on to something very interesting. We'll move on to something very comprehensive. And I know it is not a word, but still it is favorite test of UPSC in prelims, especially in prelims. Favorite test है वो UPSC का. Okay, most favorite topic of UPSC is monetary policy and banking. Combined, these two are the most most widely asked questions in UPSC prelims exam. So we will cover monetary policy over the course of next few lectures. Then we move to fiscal policy for a while. Then we go to inflation. Then we go to banking. Okay, that will cover 70% of your economic syllabus. 70-75 done. Right? Then only 2-3 major chapters remain: international institutions, balance of payment. And उसके बाद small chapters, and then we can quickly move to agriculture. ठीक है, बराबर है? Good plan, right? चलो, we are talking about monetary policy here. Now, first of all, what do you think is monetary policy? Try to ask yourself this question. What is fiscal policy, by the way? What is fiscal policy? Fiscal policy are nothing but actions taken by the government to control the level of money which is spent in the economy. Yes or no? Yes or no? Fiscal policy are nothing but actions taken by government. Now we are talking about actions taken by RBI. Now who is RBI and what is the role of RBI and what is monetary policy? What is the objective of monetary policy? Everything we are going to see here. Okay, everything in detail, एक चीज I will tell you. Right, preparation has to be very comprehensive, be it for prelims, means interview. We are not differentiating in the preparation now because we are preparing for all 3 stages simultaneously. Okay, so when government brings in fiscal policy, what are the components of fiscal policy? Receipts, expenditure, capital, revenue. What are the tools which are used by the government in fiscal policy? What can you think? Tax rates, increase or decrease of tax rates, disinvestment policy also. We have seen all these, yes or no? We have seen the budget also in detail. Calculation of deficits, targeting debt also is a part of fiscal policy, targeting deficit is a part of fiscal policy, you know, FRBM and all of that. Okay? So I can say that government is trying to control the amount of money which is spent by the consumers. By increasing tax rates, what does it do? It reduces the amount of money spent by the consumers. By decreasing tax rates, acha, what is increasing tax rate? Which kind of fiscal policy is it? Increasing tax rates. Increasing tax rate is a contractionary fiscal policy. When you increase tax rates, less amount is available with the consumers, and when less amount is available with the consumers, they spend less in the economy. When they spend less in the economy, your economy does not grow, it grows slowly or it comes down. So hence it is a contractionary policy. In contractionary policy, what happens to the fiscal deficit? Does it increase or reduce? Fiscal deficit reduces in your contractionary policy. So when you increase your tax rates, less amount is spent by the people, more amount is collected by the government, hence less deficit to fill in. Okay? When we reduce tax rates, always remember, when we reduce tax rates, it leads to more supply of or more flow of money or more flow of purchasing power in the hands of people, and they spend it, they borrow money, they invest it, etc. Right? They do this, and that is how they control the amount of purchasing power in the economy. That was all about fiscal policy. There is one more big brother who is acting with the government. There is one more authority who is acting with the government, who actually controls the money supply in the economy. See, if there is no money in the economy, no matter if the government raises taxes or reduces taxes, if you are not earning only, then government tax rates are irrelevant. Okay? So monetary policy is the policy by the monetary authority of a country. Who is the monetary authority of any country? In most of the countries, it is the central bank of a country. Who is the central bank of our country? Central Bank of India. No, not Central Bank of India. It is Reserve Bank of India. You know, Central Bank of India is also a bank. It is a bank, normal, with the name of Central Bank of India. But when we speak about monetary authority, when we speak about Central Bank of India, we are talking about nothing but Reserve Bank of India. Okay? RBI, we are talking about Reserve Bank of India. RBI is the monetary policy authority in the country. RBI sets the monetary policy. RBI gives the monetary policy. Just like government gives the fiscal policy, RBI gives the monetary policy. Now, why there is a need of 2 different policies or 2 different organizations? One simple difference is that RBI is an expert in money matters. Yes or no? Because it is a bank. Government is an expert in political matters. Government is an expert in public matters. Right? So if there is a public perception that they are not willing to pay high taxes, then government has to lower the taxes because they want to appease the public. Okay? Ultimately, it is the government who collects money and government who spends money. Okay? But how much money is available in the economy? That is decided by monetary authority. Monetary, see, name mein hi hai, monetary authority, money. Anything related to money is done by RBI. So RBI is the Monetary Policy Authority of India. RBI is the Central Bank of India. Similarly, USA also has a central bank which is known as Federal Reserve. Different countries have different names, but they do similar kinds of jobs. Okay, we are now talking about Reserve Bank of India, RBI. RBI is the Monetary Policy Authority of India. Yes or no? Yes. RBI sets the monetary policy. What does RBI set? RBI sets the monetary policy of India as compared to the fiscal policy. What is monetary policy now, sir? So now monetary policy is nothing but what is the tool which is used by fiscal policy? What is the tool which is used by government when setting up fiscal policy? What do you think is the tool? Tax rates, disinvestments, borrowings. ठीक है? Similarly, one tool, चलो, one trigger. Monetary Policy Authority of India, RBI, controls one thing, जिससे पूरा money supply is controlled in the economy. I had told you in one of the lectures that X or dash is the cost of money. What is the cost of money? Or dash is the price of money which you pay. What do you think is the price of money, or what do you think is the cost of money? Try to remember when we were talking about crowding out. When we were talking about crowding out, what was I telling you about? Dash is the cost of money. What is the cost of money? When you want to buy money, what do you have to pay? You have to pay interest. Yes or no? Okay, interest is the cost of money. Always remember this. Money supply and consumption spending is the fuel of the economy, but that fuel doesn't come for free. It comes at interest cost. Okay? Monetary policy or RBI gives monetary policy and it controls the interest rate in the economy. Monetary policy is set for controlling the interest rate in the economy. It controls the interest rate in the economy. The principal tool of monetary policy is to control the interest rate in the economy. Just like fiscal policy, it controls tax rate. Yes or no? Tax rate 10%, 20%, 30%. Similarly, monetary policy, RBI here controls the interest rate of an economy. ठीक है? समझ में आ रहा है? Interest rate of an economy or interest rate of money in the economy. ठीक है? Are you understanding? Right? It controls the interest rate in the economy. Now, chalo, you only tell me. Simple logic. If monetary policy authority, which means if RBI increases the interest rate, what will happen? If RBI increases the interest rate, what will happen? Will it be tough for borrowing money or easy for borrowing money? It will be tough for borrowing money because you are expecting 8% rate of interest, you are getting at 12%. If borrowing money is tough, is spending money tough? Yes, because if you don't borrow money, you don't have money to spend. When money spending is reduced, what will happen? Economic growth will come down. Yes or no? So can I say that when government increases tax rate, less purchasing power is available with the consumer? When RBI increases interest rate, less purchasing power is available with the consumer? Yes or no? Both are parallel in nature. Government increasing tax rate, RBI increasing interest rate. Yes or no? When RBI increases the interest rate, the money available for the consumers, the money available for anyone, borrowers, consumers, anyone, is less or it becomes costly. Hence its consumption, hence its use becomes less. And when its use becomes less, what happens? When its use becomes less, what happens? Expansion happens or contraction happens? When its use becomes less, what happens? Expansion of the economy happens or contraction of the economy happens? What? Contraction happens. Yes or no? ठीक है? It is simple, similar to tax rate. When government reduces tax rate, more purchasing power is available with the people. When RBI reduces interest rate, money is available at a lower cost. You will borrow money, firms will borrow money, they will spend on CNI. When CNI increases, economy grows. When economy grows, it expands. ठीक है? When you increase, it contracts. When you decrease, it expands. We are going to come to that again. ठीक है? So this is the main purpose of the monetary policy. So can I say, pay attention here, we can write it later on. Can I say monetary policy authority, by controlling interest rate, it directly or indirectly affects the growth of the economy? Yes or no? Can I say it affects the stability of the economy? Because if the economy is going at a very high growth rate, Keynes said that you have to reduce the growth rate because it will lead to inflation. Yes or no? Yes or no? So what will RBI do? Will it increase interest rate or reduce interest rate? Reduce or increase? Increase. When there is a when economy is growing very high, you have to pull out the purchasing power. How will you pull out the purchasing power? You will increase interest rate, making it difficult for borrowers to borrow more money, and hence to spend more money it becomes difficult, and then economy cools down and comes down. Yes or no? Please get your concepts straight. It is very important you get these concepts straight. If you mess up with this, I assure you that 5 questions you will do wrong in your prelims paper. There are 4 to 5 questions which come on these concepts only. What will RBI do? Will it increase interest rate or will it reduce interest rate? Or what will government do? Would it increase tax rate or would it reduce tax rate? So you have to be very, very, very clear with your concepts. And do not, for those who are sitting at home, please do not by heart this. When you go for by hearting, I assure you, I will write it and give you, you will mark the wrong answer if you by heart and go. Increasing tax rate equal to this, equal to this. Do not by heart this. Think logically. I'm enabling you to think logically, because in the exam only logic will work. Your memory will not work because your mind will be racing to retrieve facts from so many things. History, geography, polity, everything comes in one paper in prelims. Yes or no? So these things you should not remember. These things you should know logically. Okay? So chalo, I'm now going to ask you 10 questions. You have to answer. If RBI wants to follow an expansionary policy, what will it do? Will it increase interest rate or reduce interest rates? If RBI wants to follow an expansionary policy, what will it do? Will it increase interest rates or reduce interest rates? If RBI wants to follow an expansionary policy, what will it do? Will it increase interest rate or reduce interest rates? It will reduce interest rates. Why it will reduce interest rates? Because when interest rates are reduced, money is easily available to the public. When money is easily available to the public, they can spend easily. When they can spend easily, C plus I increases. When C plus I increases, your economy grows, which means your economy is expanding, which means that you are following an expansionary policy. Chalo. When government wants to follow an expansionary policy, what would it do with tax rates? Would it increase tax rates or would it reduce tax rates? It would reduce tax rates. Okay? When RBI increases interest rates, what happens to the money supply? When RBI increases interest rates, money supply increases or money supply reduces? Money supply reduces, because interest rate is high, your money has become costly. See, compare money with mangoes. If the price of mangoes increases, it will reduce the supply because there will be no demand. Okay? It will be difficult for you to buy mangoes and eat mangoes. Yes or no? But if government wants you to encourages you to eat mangoes, what will it do? It will provide mangoes at a very lower cost. Lower cost means what? Lower tax or lower interest rate. Okay? Either you have more money to spend or RBI gives you more money to spend at a lower cost. Okay? So when government wants to follow a contractionary policy, what will it do with the tax rates? It will increase tax rates. When RBI wants to follow a contractionary policy, what will it do? It will raise interest rates. So when interest rates are raised, can we say that RBI is contracting the economy? Yes. So when the economy is growing at a very high rate, what should RBI do? When the economy is growing at a very high rate, what should RBI do? When the economy is growing at a very high rate, what should RBI do? RBI should increase interest rate. RBI के हाथ में interest rate है, government के हाथ में tax rate है. ठीक है? UPSC also asks questions कि tax rates are, which of these are controlled by RBI, and one of them is tax rate. So tax rate is not controlled by RBI. Tax rate is a part of fiscal policy. Tax rate is a part of government intervention. Interest rate is not controlled by government. Interest rate is controlled by RBI. Interest rate on small savings scheme. Remember small savings scheme, National Small Savings Fund in Public Account of India. That is in the hands of government. That is just one small part of it. But the interest rate in the economy, the main interest rate, the policy rate is controlled by RBI. Okay? If economy is in recession, what should government do and what should RBI do? If economy is in recession, what should government and RBI do? RBI should reduce interest rates and government should reduce tax rate, because we want people to spend more money, we want people to give more fuel to the economy so that recession is stopped and economy automatically starts growing. When there is very high inflation in the economy, what should they do? When there is very high inflation in the economy, RBI should raise the interest rates to pull out the money available from the economy. Government should raise the tax rates to pull out the purchasing power from the economy, so that prices automatically, demand reduces, prices reduces, and they find an equilibrium. and inflation reduces. Yes or no? So whenever we say that we want to control inflation, what should be done with the interest rates? To control inflation, what should be done with the interest rates? Interest rates should be increased to control inflation. When interest rates are increased, lesser amount of purchasing power is available in the hands of people. Lesser amount of purchasing power available in the hands of people leads to lesser spend. Lesser spend is lesser fuel. Lesser fuel leads to lower prices. Lower price means lower inflation. Okay, so can I say that interest rates also control the stability of the economy? Can I say interest rate also controls inflation of the economy? Inflation or price levels, you can say. Okay, now pay attention here. If prices are increasing, let's say if prices are increasing, is it encouraging to the seller or discouraging to the seller? If prices are increasing, is it encouraging to the seller or discouraging? It is very encouraging to the seller because prices are increasing. I am able to sell prices at a higher rate. Okay, it is very encouraging to the seller. So what will he do? Remember I had told you, when there is high demand, when there are high prices, when your business is going very good, what will you do? You will try to expand your capacity, you will try to expand your factory, you will buy a new factory, you will employ 10 more people in the economy. Yes or no? So when RBI reduces interest rate, what is it following? Expansionary policy or contractionary policy? When RBI is reducing interest rates, it is following an expansionary policy. Okay, so when RBI is following an expansionary policy, you are able to get money at a lesser cost. Yes or no? When you are able to get money at a lesser cost, you try to invest it in a new factory. You are a seller, you try to buy a new factory, you try to expand your capacity. Yes or no? Because money is available at a less cost. And when and prices are already high, I mean, it is very good for you to expand. When you expand, would you employ more people or less people? When you expand, you will employ more people. So can I say monetary policy also controls the employment levels of the economy? Indirectly, it also controls the employment levels, because if it makes money available at a cheaper cost to the businesses, businesses are going to invest. Either they invest in a new machinery, they need people to operate the machinery. Either they invest in a new building, they need people to work in the building. Okay? Employment levels also are controlled by monetary policy. And then, okay, ultimately what does all these lead to? It will lead to development of the country. So the level of development or the standard of living is also affected by monetary policy also. Okay? Today if Samsung is able to raise money at a lower cost in India, then it will be able to produce more phones and give them at a lower cost. So people who were not earlier able to afford a phone will now be able to afford that phone because of lower prices, etc., etc. Okay? So you can say it affects the overall standard of living. See, honestly, if you ask me honestly, monetary policy is much more important than fiscal policy. Not from UPSC point of view and all, but for the economy point of view. I have a background in commerce and I have studied economics in my MCom level also. In my masters also, I have studied a lot of theoretical economics. So, I personally, my opinion is that monetary policy affects each one of us directly every day, and monetary policy affects us in a big magnitude compared to fiscal policy, because fiscal policy is fixed for 1 year. Tax rates which are declared every year, 10% tax rate is there in the budget. Every full year I will earn my income and I will pay 10% tax rate. But monetary policy affects us every day. Every day the interest rate changes. You want to buy a new house, go for taking a home loan, and today you will find a separate interest rate, tomorrow you might find a separate interest rate. Okay? I think monetary policy is much bigger in its effect than fiscal policy. Okay? Fiscal policy is the backbone, but monetary policy is the entire body of your economy. Okay? So backbone is very important because it keeps you straight, but much more in magnitude is your body compared to your spinal cord. Right? That is just my opinion. Chalo, next. So these are the primary objectives of monetary policy. Monetary policy means what is controlled? What is controlled in monetary policy? Only one factor you have to remember, which is nothing but your interest rate. Okay? In fiscal policy, we know 2-3 tools: disinvestment, debt, and tax rate. ठीक है. In monetary policy, RBI के हाथ में एक ही चीज है. There is only one thing in the hands of RBI, and RBI controls all the puppets in the economy by only this one thing. Okay, it has only one finger to rule them all. You can say RBI, right? Now we will go a little bit into the history of RBI. We have to know about RBI. We have to know. See, I am very biased towards RBI. I am a fan of RBI as an institution because I had worked with RBI in 2013, and I had met the two governors, the outgoing governor and the incoming governor. So incoming governor was Dr. Raghuram Rajan at that time, and outgoing governor was D. Subba Rao. Okay, at that time I had met both of them because they were transferring the workload with each other, so that new governor can easily replace the old governor, the former governor. Now to both are former governors only. So I had worked closely with them as a team. We were, I means not me individually, but since that time, and I was in college, I was in first year BCom in that time. So since then I have ultimate respect for RBI. It has also gone down sometimes when some policy actions happen which are not professionally managed. But RBI is one of the professionally managed or professionally run central banks amongst the world. It is due to RBI that we have not suffered any setback after 1991. After 1991, there has been no major financial crisis in India. We have a separate 1 hour on different crises which have affected the world and especially India. World ka to you don't need to know itna in detail, but especially in India. So you know, after 1991, there was East Asian financial crisis in 1997. There was global economic recession in 2008. There was taper tantrum in 2013. But still and there is now protectionism which is continuing since 2019, 2020. But we as a country, we are so well managed monetarily. I'm talking about monetarily, not anything else, not socially, nothing else, not politically. I'm talking about economically, monetarily. We are so well managed that we do not face a lot of effects. See, we are affected, no doubt, because globalization hai, we are affected by the global events, but minimum impact happens on India despite being such a global country. And majority of the credit goes to RBI. Of course, government also has a lot of credit. There is no doubt. They have to work together, otherwise they won't function. Neither of them can function. But RBI has major credit. So let us learn a little bit about the history of RBI. Okay? So I hope in history you know that there were 3 major presidencies of Bombay, Chennai and Madras. Bombay, Chennai and Bengal. There were 3: Bombay, Madras, Bengal. Okay? Chennai, Madras, वही है. Okay? There were 3 presidencies. Okay? These were the presidencies where first they had their own banks. These were the first presidencies to have their own banks. So Bombay ka bank, Bombay Presidency Bank, Bengal Presidency Bank, Madras Presidency Bank. These were the 3 major banks in India during that time. I hope you know I'm talking about बहुत पहले, right? What Britishers thought that these are operating in silos, and these were all privately owned. These were not government banks. These were all privately owned by big landlords and big industrialists at that time. Okay? Government thought that we should have one bank for entire India, so that more and more money can be transacted, more and more money flows can happen in the India. So what they did was they consolidated the bank. Okay? They consolidated the bank, and that bank combined all 3. It was still a private bank. That bank came to be known as Imperial Bank of India. You will find this in books. Okay? Imperial Bank of India. Okay? Imperial Bank of India acted as the Bank of India, like pura India ka, British India ka one bank. There were other banks also, no doubt, but this was the big, जैसे अपना है ना State Bank of India, which is everyone's bank, all India it operates, वैसा Imperial Bank of India है, ठीक है? Now I want you to appreciate the difference between a central bank and a commercial bank, first of all. So what is a central bank and what is a commercial bank? Now this particular point which I am trying to make is the basis of banking. It's the basis and basic both of banking. Now what is a central bank and what is a commercial bank? What do you think? What do you think is the difference between a central bank and a commercial bank? What do you think? See, when I ask what do you think, you are sitting at home, you have to try to think and you have to try to answer. Even if it is wrong, it doesn't matter. By knowing the wrongs, we can do things right. But by not doing anything, we don't know whether it is wrong or right. Okay? What do you think is the difference between a central bank and a commercial bank? Central bank controls the economic development of a country. RBI is the Central Bank of India. Okay? Does RBI deal with us common people? No. Yes or no? Do you go to RBI and say, sir, I want to open a savings bank account? No. Commercial bank is there for business purpose. See, any commercial bank you know of. Do you know of Axis Bank? Have you heard of ICICI Bank? Have you heard of HDFC Bank? Have you heard of State Bank of India? Have you heard of Punjab National Bank? All these are commercial banks. Be it government control, be it private control, बाद में banking chapter में we'll come into that. But their main profit is what? Profit. Their main motive is what? Profit. What is their main motive? Stability in the economy. Yes or no? Are you able to appreciate the difference between central bank and commercial bank? Normally, a country has only one central bank. In India, we have Reserve Bank of India. Normally, a country has many commercial banks. We have 21 commercial banks in India. ठीक है? Cool? Very good. Very important aspect I am trying to tell you now. Very important. Very matlab very important. What do you understand by the word credit? What do you understand by the word credit? Udhar, credit. I have given these goods to you on credit, which means you can pay me later, take away the goods today. I am a seller, I am giving you 2 dozen mangoes on credit. On credit means what? Udhar pay. You understand udhar? ठीक है? On udhar. Credit means in our parlance, in our banking parlance, you can say credit means loan. Loan is just like udhar, you pay me interest and you repay the this thing money afterwards. ठीक है? So in common words, just common words के लिए I am telling you for ease of understanding, there is a lot of difference between credit and loan also. But for our UPSC understanding, this is enough. Credit means loans. Now you tell me out of these, who gives loans to us? Commercial banks give loans to us. Whom do we repay loans to? Commercial banks, right? So, and who is at the top? Who is sitting at the top? Central bank. Central bank covers, operates, not operates, but central bank controls all the commercial banks. कि क्या कर रहे हो तुम? What are you doing? So, can I say central bank is the bank of commercial bank? Yes. Commercial bank. So, these are all the teachers. This is the principal, right? Who teaches you? Teacher. Commercial bank. Who is the control of entire economy? Central bank. He is the principal. Okay? Pay attention. We are going to repeat this in banking chapter also. I am going to repeat this 10 times in the monetary policy chapter also. Who controls the credit in the economy? Who controls the amount of money in the economy? Commercial bank or central bank? Who controls the amount of money in the economy? Central bank. How? By manipulating dash. Interest rates. Raising interest rate, less money supply. Reducing interest rate, more money supply. ठीक है? So I can say central banks control credit. Yes or no? ठीक है? Who gives loans to people? Commercial banks. Right? So अभी के लिए just keep this in mind. Commercial banks create credit and central banks controls credit. Central bank controls credit. Tomorrow if you read in newspaper, central bank has reduced the rates from 8% to 7%. What do you think will happen to credit in the economy? Would it increase or decrease? 8% से 7% हुआ है interest rate. What do you think will happen to credit in the economy? Would it increase or decrease? It would increase because money is available cheaply. Banks would give loan at a cheaper rate. So central bank controls credit and commercial banks create credit. They give loans, na, fresh loans. You went, they gave you a loan. Your mother went, they gave her a loan. Yes or no? How do they create credit is a very important part of banking chapter. I will explain how do they create credit. Out of nowhere they create credit. I will show you that. But do you understand that central bank controls credit in the economy by manipulating what? Only one tool. What is the tool? इतना समझा? ठीक है? Do you understand the difference between central and commercial bank? So what do you think was Imperial Bank of India? A central bank or a commercial bank? What do you think? Just try to take a guess. What do you think was the role of Imperial Bank of India, Tabhi, at that time? So Imperial Bank of India was both a central bank and a commercial bank. It was acting as both. It was so big at that time that it was acting as both a central bank as well as a commercial bank. Okay? Britishers saw this as very dangerous because it is a conflict of interest, yes or no? Because on one hand, you want to increase your business for profit, but on the other hand, you also want to ensure stability of economy, right? Britishers appointed a commission to look into the creation of a separate central bank. So let us break Imperial Bank of India into two, Central Bank of India and then Commercial Bank of India. Let us separate these two functions of Imperial Bank of India. So it created a committee in 1924, no need to remember all this. It created a committee in 1924. The committee name is very important. The committee name is Hilton Young Committee. Okay. The committee name is Hilton Young Committee in 1924. They asked the committee to look into the feasibility of separating the central banking functions of Imperial Bank of India and the commercial banking functions of the Imperial Bank of India. Samjha? Committee recommended you have to separate. Now it is so good. So now obviously this committee must have taken the help of experts. The committee must have called economists for their views, yes or no? कि कैसे करना है, क्या करना है, experts would be called. And it is very funny when I say that one of the experts called was J.M. Keynes. You know Keynesian economics. He also consulted, he also was a part of the expert panel of Hilton Young Commission, and he also gave his views. So he said that in India, remember we were still under colonial rule. He said that in India you have to separate the central and commercial banking functions. He gave the modalities and all. Okay. In 1935, the central banking functions of Imperial Bank of India were separated, and in 1935, a birth was given to what we call today as Reserve Bank of India. Okay. So now after 1935, tell me, is Imperial Bank of India a commercial bank or a central bank? It is a commercial bank because central banking functions were removed and given to RBI in 1935. 1935 mein RBI started its operations, but it was set up with effect from 1st April. It started its operation from 1st April 1935, but it was set up in RBI Act 1934. So RBI Act, it is a statutory body. Do you know what is a statutory body? Any body which is set up in India according to some act. According to some act is a statutory body. So now if I ask you Niti Aayog is a statutory body or not, it is not, because there is no Niti Aayog Act. Okay, is LIC a statutory body? Yes, there is an LIC Act, right? Is RBI a statutory body? Yes, RBI has an RBI Act. So any act, any body which is established under an act is known as a statutory body. Okay, now you are in foundation course, so you have to know these things. These are very basic things, and these are normally not mentioned in the books also. No subject books mention these things. So what is a statutory body? A statutory body is any body established under a particular act. Okay, LIC has a separate act. So you know I am a CA, so the institute which regulates us, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, ICAI, it is also established under ICAI Act. So ICAI is also a statutory body. Indian Medical Association Act. So now we are in the process of repealing Indian Medical Association and replacing it with National Medical Council, NMC. That's a different current affairs. Okay, RBI Act 1934, 1935, RBI was established. Now twist, I told you this was privately owned or publicly owned. This was a private bank or a public bank. This was a private bank. When RBI was established, it was still owned by landlords. It was still owned by private people only. Don't think it was under the control of government. Okay, it was not under the control of government. When it was established, it was a central bank but owned by private people. Remember GST network? It is used in public purpose but owned by private people. Similarly, okay? What happened thereafter? इसके बीच कुछ हुआ था क्या? Independence happened. We came. First step we took was to bring RBI under government control. because we said that private control for public motive does not go hand in hand. We brought under government control. So RBI was, I am using a very important word, RBI was nationalized. RBI was nationalized. Okay, RBI was nationalized in 1949. So if someone asks you whether RBI was under government control or under public control from 1935 to 49, the answer is no. It was under private control. It was owned by private shareholders. After 1949, it was brought under government control. Did Imperial Bank exist all this time? Of course. It acted as a commercial bank, yes or no? Second step that we did after independence was we nationalized Imperial Bank of India. Oh, when did we do that? 1955. We nationalized Imperial Bank of India also. Imperial Bank of India as a commercial bank was also brought under government control. See, today Punjab National Bank and all banks also are under government control. But they are nationalized banks. They also work for profit. So don't think that private ownership is profit motive and public ownership is non-profit motive. ऐसा नहीं है. Today banks are controlled by private authorities as well as public authorities. Both work for profit. ठीक है? So which bank was nationalized here in 1955? Imperial Bank of India. We changed its name. ठीक है? RBI का नाम we didn't change. We changed its name to what we know today as State Bank of India. SBI. It is nothing but, so SBI has its genesis in individual presidency banks of Bombay, Madras, Bengal, and then it combined to Imperial Bank of India. It was under private control in 1955. Finally, we brought it under our own government control, and we changed the name to State Bank of India. History समझा RBI का? This is the history of RBI, and since then RBI has been playing a pivotal role in the macroeconomic stability of India. Everything to keep everything stable. Macroeconomic stability of India. Fun fact. In India, CA Day and Doctor Day falls on the same day. In India, CA Day and Doctor Day. So my cousin sister, like I told you, she is a doctor. I wish her happy Doctor's Day. She wishes me happy CA Day. Okay, and that comes tomorrow on 1st of July. Okay, this is more than enough to know about RBI history. Bas. Now something about who controls, like who runs RBI. Who do you think is at the head of RBI? I hope you know this basic. Governor. It is such an English word, governor. It's a very English word. British legacy is reflected everywhere. Okay, Parliament is also an English word, na? Right? Governor. No need to know this. I am just explaining it. He is assisted by 4 deputy governors. Deputy governor, deputy governor, deputy governor, deputy governor. They are assisted by executive directors. Okay? They are in turn assisted by directors who represent regional branches. Western region, Eastern region, Southern region, Central region, Northern region. Okay? So this is the overall functioning of, and uske niche employees start, manager, senior manager, etc. So it's a very big hierarchy. It's a very big structure, and that is the main structure of RBI. Now, who is the monetary policy authority of of India? What do you think? RBI is the monetary policy authority of India. Who is the central bank of India? RBI. RBI is the central bank of RBI is the central bank of India. Yes or no? What is the central bank of USA known as? I told you just. Federal Reserve, FR, Federal Reserve. Central Bank of USA is known as Federal Reserve. Central Bank of India is known as RBI, Reserve Bank of India. Okay? Now we begin with what is called as monetary policy. So we saw that monetary policy mein interest rates are manipulated or interest rates are increased or decreased depending on the need of the economy. When economy is growing very fast, what would RBI do? When economy is growing very fast, RBI would increase interest rate or decrease interest rates? RBI would increase interest rates to make less flow of money available to the public so that economy cools down. Fuel खींच लेता है, it pulls the money back. How does it pull the money back? By increasing interest rate or increasing interest rate. ठीक है? So now I'll tell you, you only told me, RBI doesn't deal with normal people like us. RBI doesn't give us loan. Who gives us loan? Commercial bank. Yes or no? So commercial bank, let's give it a name. Let's say SBI. SBI gives loans to us. ठीक है? Where do SBI get money from? RBI. SBI gets money from RBI. So this is the flow of funds actually. This is the flow of funds. RBI gives money to SBI. SBI gives money to us. SBI also takes money from other customers and gives money to us. That is, we'll cover that in the banking chapter. I'm not covering it here. SBI also takes money from Mr. A and gives it to us as loan. ठीक है, ये भी होता है. And SBI also takes help from RBI. ठीक है, always remember this. SBI also takes help from RBI. This is simple. This is very straightforward. There is no problem in this. इसको करते हैं साइड, right? Next what we have to learn is, we have to learn what are the functions of RBI. What do you think RBI does? क्या लगता है? What do you know about RBI? What do you think RBI does? Does RBI print currency? Yes. Your notes are printed by RBI. Just see who has signed on your note. ठीक है? ठीक है? RBI prints all currency. RBI issues all currency except coins and rupee 1 note. Why, sir? Coins and rupee 1 note are issued by government, not RBI. ठीक है? So always remember this thing. All currency notes are printed and issued by RBI except all coins and 1 rupee notes. So if you see 1 rupee note, it will have the signature of finance secretary. It will not have the signature of RBI governor. Always remember this. Print currency के बाद issue currency भी होता है. There is a separate function called as issuing of currency, which is okay. Can I say RBI is government's banker? RBI acts as a banker to the government. So banker to the government. So RBI operates at a very high level. So all those government. So Ministry of Home Affairs ka account would be kept with RBI because it is the banker to government. So RBI is the banker to government. RBI is a big bank. It does not deal with people like us, but it deals with government directly. So all government accounts are kept with RBI. Government accounts are also kept with commercial banks, but government accounts are also kept with RBI. So RBI acts as a banker to the government. ठीक है? Can I say RBI acts as a banker to banks? When banks are in difficulty, whom they will call? RBI. There is only one parent of banks, which is RBI. ठीक है? Whenever they are in trouble, whenever they are in need of funds, whenever they need money, whenever they don't find enough money in the economy, or they are saying we need money, sir, they call RBI. So RBI is also known as lender of last resort. What do we mean by lender of last resort? कि जब कोई नहीं काम कर रहा है, जब कोई मदद के लिए नहीं आ रहा है, तब एक ही मदद को आता है, which is RBI, right? In the movie, which movie? Airlift. In the movie Airlift by Akshay Kumar, which showed Kuwait getting invaded and all. In that, Akshay Kumar says कि आदमी को चोट लगती है तो वो माँ चिल्लाता है. The same thing, when banks are in need, when commercial banks are in need, it will remember their mother, who is no one but RBI. When governments need money, it will also remember mother, RBI. Remember, government to finance deficit, it can borrow from RBI. Yes, ad hoc it cannot borrow, and it cannot ask RBI to print currency to finance deficit, but normal borrowing can be done. Yes or no? What kind of borrowing is done? We are going to see in this chapter only. Okay? What else do you think RBI does? Every bank has a locker where you can store your valuables. Nation's valuables are stored with RBI. Foreign currency assets are stored with RBI. Okay? Gold reserves. RBI has gold reserves. Nation's gold is also stored with RBI. What do we mean nation's gold? Is it your gold, my gold? No. Nation India also has certain holdings of gold. India as an entity has certain holdings of gold. That is also stored with RBI. Okay? Are you getting this? It is fairly simple to understand. There is no rocket science involved here. Now you only help me. RBI does credit dash. Credit creation or credit control? RBI does credit control by manipulating or by changing interest rate. Okay? Do you know what is exchange rate? Foreign currency rate, $1 is 72 rupees. RBI also regulates the exchange rate of India. Instead of regulate, I would use the word manage. RBI manages the exchange rate of India. So exchange rate ka story to is the entire basis of balance of payment chapter. What is the and IMF? We'll cover this exchange rate part in the balance of payment and IMF chapter. Okay? Do you think RBI gives advice to the government on financial matters? Yes, it does. It is an expert. RBI is an expert advisor to the government. ठीक है? Okay. Now let us talk about printing currency. Let us talk something about printing currency. Can RBI print unlimited amount of currency? Yes, it can. Theoretically, it can. Can RBI print unlimited amount of currency? Yes, it can. What will happen if RBI prints unlimited amount of currency? I am not talking about deficits and all. RBI wants to increase money supply, it goes on printing. Can RBI do that? Yes, RBI can do that. What will happen? Think and tell me. What will happen if tomorrow RBI prints a lot of currency and gives it to you? Gives it to you means it will give to banks and bank will give to you. What will happen? Inflation. How inflation will happen? Because you are now able to, because money has become cheap now. Money का value ही नहीं है. See, you value a 2000 rupees note or 500 rupees note. Why do you value it? Because it is rare. If I give you unlimited 2000 rupees notes, you will not have any value. If I give you unlimited 2000 rupees notes, you will go on buying anything you want. When you go on buying anything you want, suppliers will increase their price. And when suppliers increase their price, what happens? Inflation happens. And this will go on higher. Okay? So one mango which is costing 30 rupees per piece will cost 300 per piece tomorrow. Same thing happened in Zimbabwe. You won't imagine. If you Google, you will come to know. You will see those photos. You know supermarket kaisa rehta hai? There are a lot of this thing, racks and all, everything are kept. Aisles are there, different aisles. One photo I had seen at that time, it came in newspaper. One photo I had seen. हालत इतनी खराब थी कि all the aisles were empty. There was no goods, there was no supply. And one side of the aisle was stocked with only two things. One, water, bottled water, and second, bread. Because they eat bread there a lot. We don't eat much bread in India. We eat wheat a lot. They eat bread. Okay. So, the one is that there is no supply because nobody is able to buy anything because they are so costly now. So after a point of time, you will not be able to afford the mango. Okay. So because everyone has money. Imagine everyone having 2000 rupee notes. they'll go on buying, and sometime everything will collapse. Okay? In front of that supermarket, there was a line of up to 700-800 meters. Why? To buy water and bread. There was a line. Why? Because that was the only supermarket having stock. And obviously that stock will also go out in 10 minutes. ज़्यादा क्या ही होगा? ठीक है? Price of one, if you convert the currency, price of one bottle of water. What is the price of one bottle of water in India? 1 liter Bisleri? 20 rupees. Some earlier it was 15, then it came to 20 rupees, 20, 30 rupees, whatever. Now I am talking in PPP terms. I hope you know when I say, I hope you understand what do I mean when I say purchasing power parity terms, which means I am comparing the purchasing power, not the literal exchange rate. I am comparing proper purchasing power. In PPP terms, if you convert the exchange rate, 1 liter of water at that time when this crisis was happening would cost 1,700 rupees in India. 1 liter of water, 1,700 Indian rupees in PPP terms, in purchasing power parity terms. Just imagine. Not even official exchange rate terms. So, or be worst. In PPP terms, 1 loaf of bread more than 3,000 rupees. 1 small packet of bread. Just imagine the situation. Okay, same thing happened with Greece. Similar thing happened with Venezuela. Venezuela is a world example of hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is where prices are today 10 rupees, tomorrow 100 rupees, then 1000 rupees. Itna zyada it increases, hyperinflation. We'll cover all this in inflation chapter, don't worry. We'll cover Greece wala case in balance of payments chapter because that is more relevant there. We'll cover Venezuela and Japan during World War in inflation chapter, right? Point is, can RBI print unlimited currency? Yes. Will RBI print unlimited currency? No. Why? Because supply is limited. Demand should not go beyond a point of time. If supply is limited, demand is unlimited, then it will lead to rise in prices. Okay? Also, what would happen to the exchange rate? I am saying if the value of rupee doesn't have any value because everyone has money. Okay? The value of rupee will drastically fall down. So today $1 is 72 rupees. Tomorrow it will become $1 200 rupees. So imports will become costlier because you have to pay for imports in dollar terms. So if you are importing something worth $5, today you are paying 350 rupees. Tomorrow you will have to pay 300 into 5, 1500 rupees. Yes or no? And when you are not able to do that, suppliers will not supply, which means ultimately economy will go for a collapse. So point is RBI does not print unlimited currency, right? One important concept I would like to tell regarding currency. Earlier currencies were printed only jitna you have gold, which means that today if you go to RBI with a 10 rupees note, you can say RBI will say it is a valid note. Yes or no? Earlier what used to happen is central banks used to print only that much currency which is backed by reserves, which means jiske liye reserves hai. So let's say if RBI has gold reserves of 100 crore rupees, it will print currency up to the extent of 100 crores. So that tomorrow if currency is brought back, he can get the 100 crores whatever worth of currency he is giving back as gold. If you don't understand this, simple example hai ki today you are giving someone 500 rupees and you are buying things. Yes or no? But why is he accepting that 500 rupees? Because he know he can use that 500 to buy something else. Okay? If tomorrow RBI says that your note is not valid, what will he do? He will not accept your 500. Okay? So similarly, when will RBI say that the note is not accepted? When it is not backed by reserves. So you need some reserves, uske against you are giving notes. So tomorrow, if everyone in the economy comes to RBI and says ki we don't trust these rupees, we don't trust this money, RBI will show them the vault room and say ki sir, your money is secure because it is backed by reserves. Because we have that much gold reserves, which means ki anyone who comes to us with the note, we can give him 500 rupees worth of gold and we can take back the note. It is backed by reserves. This used to happen earlier. But since population of India is very high, and world economy also started to move beyond gold standard. I'm not going into the history of money and all because that will take another lecture. Maybe we can cover it in money supply lecture. But now for the time being, just understand that the currency which is used by RBI, the currency which is printed by RBI, the currency which is printed and circulated by RBI is partially backed by reserves. Partially. RBI has approximately 115 crores worth of reserves. Approximately. So if you go to RBI's vaults and all, you will find that there are 115 crores worth of reserves, worth of gold, worth of paper-backed, worth of other foreign currency assets, worth of other documents, other assets which are worth 115 crores. इसके सामने RBI prints currency worth rupees more than 115 crores. So today let's say RBI has a currency in circulation of 300 crores. Okay, suppose. So this is more than this. So more than what is backed by security. Okay. So it is like you have studied for 80 marks and you are telling your parents that you have studied for 100 marks. You don't have any backing, you don't have any proof. Similarly, now RBI does not have any backing for the remaining money, remaining 185 crores, right? Why is this? This is because now the population is so much that RBI has to print more currency even if it doesn't have any reserves. Earlier, we used to have a gold reserve system. This was called a gold reserve system where all your money is backed by currency. Okay? Now we don't have that. Now we have partial reserve system. Do you realize out of 300 crores, only 115 crores are backed by reserves? Does that mean the other 185 crores are not valid? No, they are valid. All our notes are valid. Okay? I want to introduce a concept, pay very close attention. The currency, how much is not backed by reserves here? 185 crores. The currency which is not backed by any reserves, which only runs on trust. You trust RBI कि RBI will honor the commitment. Just see the wordings on RBI, on the note. I promise to pay the bearer worth of 100 rupees or 200 rupees, whatever note you are holding. Just see what is written on the note. See, when you are giving your note of 100 rupees to someone else, try to understand that he is accepting it because he trusts RBI. He is accepting it because he knows that when he gives that 100 rupees to someone else, he will be able to buy goods. Okay? If RBI says that 100 rupees note is not valid, he will not take 100 rupees note from you. Yes or no? Okay? Now that 100 rupees note might be backed by reserves, might not be backed by reserves. Any money which is not backed by reserves, it is valid. I am not saying it is not valid. Any money which is not backed by reserves is called as fiat money. Fiat. This actually I wanted to cover this in money supply chapter, but since we are talking about printing currency, issue of currency, we are talking about fiat money. Okay? So what is fiat money? What is fiat money? Any money which is not backed by reserves, which is just paper. It is not backed by reserves. So can RBI print unlimited currency? Yes, RBI can print unlimited fiat money because it is not backed by reserves. Earlier we used to print only currency jitna reserves tha. So if 115 crores worth of gold is there, you can print only 115 crores worth of currency. But now what happened is, now population and other things, globalization, we need more currency. So we started printing money without having any value. This without having any reserves. This increased the difficulty of RBI to maintain the right amount of balance, because you are given a freedom to print any amount you want, but you should not, use that freedom because it will lead to inflation. We saw the examples also. So fiat money is nothing but it is not backed by reserves. All our currency notes and coins which are more than 115 crores are not backed by reserves. This is the actual level of reserves in India has. Now RBI has 115 crores. Do you think the currency in circulation are only 115 crores? No. As currency changes hands so much, all India is transacting. So how many people do we have? We have 130 crore people. Everyone, even if they change 1 rupee, it is 130 crores. It is more than 115 crores. Yes or no? So all the currencies in the world, be it US dollar, be it Indian rupees, are now fiat money. Majorly fiat money. Why? Because up to 115 crores, they are reserve backed money. They are reserve money. But more than that, they are known as fiat money. So what is fiat money? That currency which is not backed by reserves. What is fiat money? That currency which does not have reserves, which runs on trust. Yes or no? You trust the currency. If you give me 20 rupees note, I trust that note I can use it for my own purchases. When there is no trust, I will not accept 20 rupees note. Have you encountered earlier some people don't accept 10 rupee coins also? Earlier it used to happen when these coins were new, 10 rupee coins people didn't accept because they did not know whether it works or not. Okay? So that is trust. All of that is fiat money. So what is fiat money? Anything which has trust. Okay? If I tell you that I will pay you in Bitcoin, if I tell you that I will pay you in cryptocurrency, if I tell you that I will pay you something which you can use for your purchases, will you accept cryptocurrency from me? If you think that you can use it, you will accept cryptocurrency from me. It is fiat money. So anything which has trust value is called as fiat money. Okay? Now, do we have 1000 rupee notes in India now? We don't. We used to have 1000 rupee notes. Okay? We don't have 1000 rupee notes in India. So can I say 1000 rupee notes are not legal now? They are not legal. They are out of circulation. They are out of use. So anyone who is using 1000 rupee notes, a case can be filed against them because that currency is now not recognized by our RBI, by our monetary authority. Yes or no? So any currency which is not legally acceptable, any currency which is not legally acceptable cannot be used. Yes or no? So what are the remaining currencies which can be used? We have our coins which are in circulation. We have notes which are in circulation. That money is called as legal tender money. Legal tender. Pay attention to the definition which I am telling you. Pay attention to the concept. Any money which the receiver cannot reject is known as legal tender money. If you give 10 rupee notes to a shopkeeper, he cannot reject that 10 rupee notes unless it is torn and unless it is soiled and mutilated. But if you give a proper original, not fake, asli 10 rupee notes to a shopkeeper, can he reject that note? No. If he rejects that, it will be illegal on his part. You can file a case on him. He is not accepting 10 rupee notes. He is asking something else only. Okay? So legal tender is what he is legally bound to accept. So if someone pays you 100 rupees, you are legally bound to accept that 100 rupee note. Samjha? I'll give a very good example. Let's say you have to pay a shopkeeper 20,000 rupees. You bought a phone, you have to pay a shopkeeper. Can you pay in coins? Can you pay in 1 rupee ka 20,000 coins to him? The answer is no. There are some limits on coin acceptance. So up to 50 rupees you can pay in 1 rupee coins, या ऐसा कुछ तो है, or up to 500 rupees, something like that. So there are limits on coin acceptance. नहीं तो you will give him 50 paisa coins, 40,000 coins of 50 paisa and tell him कि keep on counting. You know, नाश्ता मंगाओ, cold drink मंगाओ, मैं बैठ जाता हूँ इधर, आप count करते रहो, right? So there are some limits on coin acceptance. So beyond that, let's say 500 rupees tak you can pay in coins. So beyond that, it is not legal tender. Beyond that, he can reject. He can accept if he wants. He can accept even 1000 rupees in coins. But if he says ki sir, above 500 I will not accept because I am finding it too tedious to count, then it is okay, you cannot file a case on him. But if he fails to accept below 500 and coins, then you can file a case on him. So coins, let's say coins are legal tender up to 500 rupees, not beyond that. Yes or no? Okay? So legal tender is something which the receiver cannot reject. Receiver of notes or receiver of money cannot reject. Okay? If law gives him a permission to reject, it is optional whether he can accept or reject. It is not a crime if he rejects, but he can accept also. Samjha? So when I say 10 rupee coins are legal tender, which means nobody can reject, which means technically you can file a case on him. He is not accepting a 10 rupee coin. They are legal tender. So legal tender is money which the receiver is legally bound to accept. Now please know the difference between fiat money and legal tender money. Now tell me, is all fiat money legal tender money, true or false? Is all fiat money legal tender money? Use your concepts. Fiat money, I told you, fiat money is money which is not backed by reserves. Any money which is not backed by reserves is fiat money. Any money which the receiver is legally bound to accept is called as legal tender money. Now, is there any difference between the two? Yes, there are different kinds of these things, different kinds of money. So, is all fiat money legal tender money? Think and tell me. Is all fiat money legal tender money? Are you forced to accept Bitcoin by law in India? No. Bitcoin is not legal tender yet. in India. Okay? Bitcoin, legal tender is something which you cannot refuse to accept. Can you refuse to accept Bitcoin? Yes. If I ask you, I will pay you in Bitcoin. You can say, no, I need 100 rupees note. Okay? So Bitcoin is not legal tender. Is Bitcoin fiat money? Yes. It is not backed by reserves. So all fiat money is not legal tender money. Do you agree with this? All fiat money is not legal tender money. Okay? Bitcoin is also fiat money. Our currency notes are also fiat money, but they are legal tender also. Is all legal tender money fiat money? Think. Is all legal tender money? So all fiat money is not legal tender, because there might be some monies which are not accepted in India, which you are not forced to accept in India, which might even be illegal in India. I'll give you a very simple example. Your brother went to USA and he brought $100 note to India. Is it legal tender in India? $100 is not legal tender in India. Is it fiat money? Yes, it is fiat money. It is a currency. It is a valid currency. It is fiat money, but it is not legal tender in India. Our rupees will not work outside India. Did you understand? So all fiat money is not legal tender money. My question, is all legal tender money fiat money? Is all legal tender money fiat money? So what is legal tender money? You can say in India legal tender are the currency notes and coins. So now think, are they fiat money or not? Not all. Up to 115 crores they are not fiat money because they are backed by reserves. More than 115 crores they are fiat money. So all legal tender money is also not fiat money. Up to 115. इसके ऊपर, so be it 99% it might be fiat money, but 91% is still not fiat money. ठीक है? Many books don't write this fact, they just generalize things. So you need to know the concept between fiat money and legal tender money. Simple concept है, ये सब भूल जाओ. Fiat money is nothing but money which is not backed by reserves. One. What is legal tender money? Legal tender money is one which the receiver cannot refuse to accept. Simple, which is legal in India. So US dollar is not legal tender in India, but it is fiat money. Indian rupee is legal tender in India, it is fiat money up to the extent or more than 115 crores of reserves. You don't know whether the note you are holding, it falls under this or not. It is the calculations happen on an economy level. They don't happen on a subjective level. Did you understand? So is Bitcoin fiat money or legal tender money or both or neither? It's a fiat money, but in India it is not a legal tender. Let's say USA legalizes Bitcoin. So in USA, Bitcoin is fiat money as well as legal tender money. What about 2000 rupee note? Is it fiat money or legal tender money or both or none? It is both. It is fiat. So for our purpose, we will assume that it is more than reserves. So it is fiat money. It is legal tender also. What about 1000 rupee note? It is neither fiat money not legal tender because 1000 rupee note तो है ही नहीं सर्कुलेशन में, तो रिजर्व्स का बियॉन्ड रिजर्व्स का सवाल ही नहीं होता है. एंड इट इज नोवेयर इन backed by reserves or nowhere legalized also. US dollar is not legal tender in India, but it is fiat money because it is the currency of another country. So if you go there, you will be able to use it. Samjha the difference between fiat money and legal tender money. So this concludes our discussion on printing currency and issue of currency. Get it? So we are going to discuss all these points. We are going to discuss, and then we will move on to what are the tools which RBI uses in monetary policy. What are the ways in which RBI influences our lives? Okay? That all we are going to see. So we'll stop here. We'll continue in the next lecture. But just before going, tell me, what do you mean by fiscal consolidation? Fiscal, fiscal. Ye nahi. Fiscal consolidation. What do you mean by fiscal consolidation? What do you do in fiscal consolidation? You reduce taxes or increase taxes? You increase taxes. Okay? Because you want to reduce the gap between your expenditure and receipts. So either you increase receipts or you reduce your expenditure, or you do both, and you reduce the gap of what? What do you reduce the gap? Fiscal deficit. You reduce your fiscal deficit. And then obviously reduction of fiscal deficit leads to reduction in net addition to debt. Yes or no? Debt to add ho raha hai. Even if you borrow 1%, it is added to your debt. But you add it at a lower pace. Okay? What is fiscal stimulus? How do you expand? By pumping in money in the economy, by increasing money supply. What are the ways of increasing money supply in the economy? Decrease in tax rate, so that you collect less tax and let them enjoy. Samjha? Now before going, one small tip. You can write it down anywhere. In your fiscal policy, you need to write it down. I was going to discuss that with monetary policy only, but just one bonus tip before going. Fiscal stimulus. You only told me in fiscal stimulus, what do? You push more money in the economy, okay? So this act of pushing in more money in the economy by the government, we are now in fiscal policy, not monetary. This act of pushing more money in the economy by the government to follow a strategy of fiscal stimulus is called as pump priming. P-U-M-P, pump priming. If you use this word in the exam, the examiner will cry. What have you written? It is known as pump, P-U-M-P, pump priming. So basically pump से हवा भर रहे वैसा है. You are just pushing in money into the economy. Pump priming. Who does pump priming? RBI or government? Government, because fiscal policy का part है. It is under the mandate. It is under the control of government. Yes or no? So RBI does, government does pump priming. Is pump priming a strategy of fiscal consolidation or fiscal stimulus? Fiscal stimulus. Did Keynes advocate pump priming during low times or high times? Low times, because when your economy is going low, you have to push your economy up, you have to push more money up. How do you pump prime? By reducing taxes or increasing taxes? Reducing taxes. Which taxes you want to reduce? By which taxes would you like to reduce, direct or indirect? Direct taxes, because it increases your purchasing power directly. Okay? So anyways, your control over direct taxes should be more than over indirect. Indirect taxes are regressive in nature, right? So pump priming is one word which you should know. And pump priming, I would erase this from here because this is a part of monetary policy. So I don't want you to be confused. So I would just erase this. Anyways, I was going to tell you this thing in the further lecture when we speak about monetary policy further. Okay? So we'll stop here. I hope things are clear. If things in this are not clear, you don't need to be clear with these things. This was just some background which I was giving you. Only one-liner definitions you should know. Fiat money is money which is not backed by any reserves. Legal tender is the money which the receiver is legally bound to accept, which he cannot refuse. Okay? Now you can apply your brain and you can apply this test to any currency, any way of payment which you think is possible. And then you can say ki whether it is a legal tender money or a fiat money. Okay? What about Paytm, payment by Paytm? See, payment by Paytm is not legal tender, because if the shopkeeper says, I don't have Paytm, you cannot put a case on him. Is it? Yes or no? You can put a case on him if he refuses a currency note, but you cannot put a case on him. So he is not legally bound to accept Paytm. Okay? Is Paytm fiat money? Yes, because Paytm represents your bank balance, which is nothing but not backed by reserves in India. Okay? So please keep these things in your mind when applying the test for fiat money, legal tender money and all of those things, right? So we'll stop here. We'll continue in the next lecture. I hope you are enjoying this lecture series. We are going at a very fast pace because we have less time and I want to cover as much as possible so as to give you a head start. So when other students become serious about economics, which is in month of September, or when they start actually understanding economics, by the month of September you already have done or gone through the syllabus once with all the concepts. See, concepts like pump priming, fiscal consolidation, the debate between fiscal stimulus and consolidation, the debate between debt levels, which debt to keep, which debt not to keep. This is something which students don't understand that easily in my experience, and that is what we are focusing here on. See, I can open the book and I can tell you this chapter we are doing, and this is, read this from the book and all. That is all fine. That everyone does. That you have to do also. That you also have to do. But the debates, the concepts, why we are doing this, why we are doing that, that is more important. Why are we following Keynesian economics? Is Keynesian economics pro-cyclical or counter-cyclical? Counter-cyclical. So can I say counter-cyclical policy advocates pump priming when economy is in recession? Yes. So we'll stop here and we'll continue with monetary policy in our next lecture, and stay tuned because inflation, banking, all other interesting chapters are coming in. If you like my lectures, please tell your friends also, so that they also are able to avail help of these lectures in economy. Okay? Thank you so much. We'll meet in the next one. Keep on revising.